blowing my nose using toilet paper. I should ask Dr. Ruth Westenheimer what that means. But aren't there things you don't like to do? I mean, it's not that you don't like it. It doesn't make you feel very good. I can't explain it. It's just that's what it is. And I don't want to probe. I don't want to know why. You don't have to know why about everything. I mean, not everything has an answer. We give everything an answer just to qualify. Before I go on, there's a wonderful movie on television, Channel 14, KJZZ, and I will excuse anyone in the listening audience to go watch that TV show. It's Ironweed with Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep. It's about depression, alcoholics. This is a magnificent movie. It's starching. It's painfully human. It's an amazing movie. When I saw it, I said, this movie will never make it as a movie because it's too good. The world isn't ready for a movie like this. The acting is superb. I saw that movie and I was riveted. And I will excuse you now to watch that movie Ironweed. Okay? I will play a commercial, and this will give you permission to turn off your radio and go watch television. I understand. And I give you, is it permission? I said that before. I think it's the kind of, you can always hear me. I mean, I'm here 5 nights a week, 8 to 10, not during the daytime because, well, I've been X'd out of the daytime programming. Minds smaller than mine have made that decision. So I'm here at night, but I'm willing to forgive. I'm willing to overlook those people who are regular listeners and say it's okay to watch Ironweed tonight on Channel 14 because it's the kind of movie that makes watching movies worthwhile. It's the word heart-rendering. It's cloying and binding and painful, but it's great acting. Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep. Okay? I will play a commercial. This will give you time to segue gracefully from radio to television.
Are you looking for talk radio from a uniquely inbred point of view? Are you looking for talk radio that will discuss the finer points of moonshine and the movie Deliverance? Well, you ain't gonna find it, so do what I do. Listen to my show with Mark Shearing every Sunday from 1 to 2 p.m. It's not just his show, it's your show, it's my show, it's everybody's show. You know that Mark Shearing, he's just like K-Talk. He's got a really big heart.
K-Talk, AM 630, the voice of Utah.
Okay, I will tell you what else is on television tonight. Dateline, Channel 2, criminals in the United States who are entitled to collect welfare. Criminals in the United States who are entitled to collect welfare. You watch that on Channel 2 Dateline at 9 o'clock prime time. Channel 4, Violence in America's Classrooms. Speaking of violence in the American classrooms, I live near a Catholic school. Up around 23rd East and around 21st, 19 South, I think there's a Catholic school. I don't know. Cosgrove. It's a Catholic school. And one of the joys of driving by that school is there's no one is going to shoot at your car. You know that you're safe. You know that these people all wear the same uniform. And when you wear the same uniform, I don't mean gang-banging uniform, you act differently, and I'm in favor. I'm in favor of uniforms. First of all, you can't outdress the next person. And I believe on the lower levels, when you're, a kid, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, while you're in grade and junior high and high school, the competition to outdress one another is very expensive for parents. And it becomes very important for you to dress up to a standard that's currently fashionable. But looking at those awful-looking kids wearing grunge outfits, they're disgusting and frightening looking. They look like the kind of children that you hope you never have, but your neighbors are stuck with them. But in Cosgrove or Cosgrove Catholic School, all the kids dress alike. And when you dress alike, you sort of act a little better. It's better for your parents. You don't have to worry about dress. Dressing is important when you're young. What you look like, what you're wearing, if you're wearing the same thing your girlfriends are wearing, if you're current in style. And I'm all for everyone dressing alike. That's why prison is so wonderful. That's why going to jail is so simple. Everyone dresses alike. O.J. Simpson. In jail he probably wears orange. And when you all dress alike, your hair could be a little different. Your undergarments could be different. But you all dress alike and look alike. It's a sort of formal humiliation, demeaning. But that's what happens when you go to jail. And grade school and high school and junior high is a form of prison. They take roll. You do things within a confined period of time. The bell rings, you go to another room. You have to be there at a certain time. You have to be in school at a certain time. And you leave at a certain time. And then they even have yards. They let you play in the yard like they do in prison. You have playtime or free time. But the dressing down takes a weight and pressure off young people. What you do after school is your own business. What you do after school, who cares? But I think during school, when the idea is to learn, and learning doesn't mean that you dress up to impress other people. It means that you go there all looking alike and you have an education. Not a stylistic education. Not keeping up with the Smiths or the Youngs. The Smiths or the Youngs. It used to be the Joneses, but in Utah it's the Smiths and the Youngs. You have to tailor the language for the community you live in. This is golden delicious, just sitting here and talking and talking and talking and having the time of his life on KTKK AM 630, the noisy voicey of Utah.
At 25 to get 35, now 45 to get 55 on it, now 75 on it, have to get $100 on it, 100, give me $100 on it, have to get... Hi, this is Mike the Auctioneer. I'm always looking for a good deal, and I've found one. TGS, the good stuff. When it comes to your automobile, TGS really is the good stuff. I recently started adding TGS to each fill-up, and my car went from just over 16 miles per gallon in the city to almost 20. With the price of gas over $1 a gallon, TGS pays for itself real fast. TGS, the good stuff, is just $1.49 for enough to treat 15 to 20 gallons, and if you experience similar results to mine, you'll be making money each time you add TGS. Better mileage, better performance, cleaner air. Sounds like a great deal to me. TGS, the good stuff. Now available at Holiday Oil and Rainbow locations. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. At 25 to get $30 on an average to get 35, able to get $40 on an average to get 45 and $50, able to get now $60.
K-Talk, AM 630, the voice of Utah.
As I was casually talking about Cosgrove or Cosgrove Catholic School, I didn't realize that my producer, Skip Francone, went there for 9 wonderful years. He typed it on the computer, so I'm bringing him in. Now, what I said about dressing, uniform dressing. Were you conscious when you went to that school that maybe you were missing something, dressing like everyone else?
I'm not sure that I was, Golden. I wore the same color pants from the time I was in kindergarten until the time I was in the 8th grade, so that was 9 years. White shirt, green pants. Didn't know that I was different. Couldn't really figure out why I had no friends in the neighborhood. All my friends only came from school. I'm not sure I was smart enough to really know. I don't know if I was social enough.
Well, if it's not emphasized, it doesn't have any significance. The reason why you are concerned about things, it's because you're conscious of it, but it was subdued, so it never manifested itself in I'm looking like everybody else.
It was a wonderful time, and I had no idea that another world existed.
Do they have alumni? Do you go back and see the people you haven't seen in years? Do they have, what do they call those things, reunions? They have reunions at that school?
Not at that school. It's a grade school, kind of middle school. But the high schools do. Judge, which would be the Catholic high school.
And you went there also?
I also went there.
And they also have a dress code.
Yes, they do. I wore a tie and a coat every day.
I just think they look so much better, and you're not afraid. I have an apprehension every time I see those awful-looking grunge people. I have a feeling they look menacing. That's what bothers me. They look menacing and unpredictable.
I really think that I feel kind of passionate about this uniform thing. Having gone through 13 years of uniforms, I know that there's a certain discipline about wearing a uniform. And it says something when you reach school every day.
You don't have to think, what will I wear tomorrow? You don't have to worry about style. You don't have to worry about looking better. You don't have to worry about competition. You just get dressed, and the only difference is your hair or how you act. What about the shoes? Are the shoes all the same also?
Well, in grade school, they don't allow the girls to wear patent leather shoes because they shine. And so, the musical, Do Patent Leather Shoes Really... What's the name of that musical? You know the one I mean? It's a good old Catholic musical, and it's about patent leather shoes. No. They don't allow the girls to wear them because the boys can look in the patent leather shoes, which shine like mirrors.
And look up the dress.
That's right.
My God, even at a young age.
That's right.
Why is it that looking up a girl's dress is still a male urge? Girls can't look up a guy's pants. I guess they could. but I wonder why that still is such a while it's still the male thing to do. It's built in. It's just built in part of being a male. Looking up a girl's dress, I don't know what you see, but it's the idea that it triggers something, some prurient interest. All these years, I agree with you. All these years, I probably have had that same prurient interest, and I can't say that I've ever seen anything. But you don't have to. You imagine when girls wear tight clothes, you imagine, and the imagineering is just as good as maybe it's better than the real thing.
Chances are it's better.
Because you can fantasize anything you want. This Cosgrove School, when I taught one day at Judge Memorial, there were nuns and priests, and not being of that background, I was very uncomfortable around those people. Did you, going to Catholic school, what was your feeling about nuns and priests? And I'll ask you later, has that feeling changed? What was your attitude about these people? Were they special? Were they superior? Were you in awe of them?
I think that when I was young, kindergarten, first, second, the early elementary years, you were in awe of them, or you found your ears boxed. The nuns very much made you respect the priests, and they made you respect the nuns. And as you grew a little bit older, I think, and you got up into the more middle school years, you started to see that they were simply humans who had chosen this particular life, and some of them were good, and some of them weren't so good. And
did you ever attach yourself? Was there nuns that boys were enamored with?
Oh yes, I had an English teacher at Judge, who was a nun, And she had the finest-looking legs of any woman I can imagine. Now, perhaps it was just because she was a nun and they were hanging over the desk there, but she's no longer a nun.
I mean, all the attention she got from the boys, probably, she said, gee, I may be missing something. When you went to school, did the nuns wear those, those penguin outfits?
They did early on. My early years at Cosgriff, they had the penguin outfits with the hats that looked like a V, like the flying nun used to wear. And later on, they changed to the habit that just sort of covered their head.
So they looked. Did they ever? I mean, did you act differently toward them when they didn't look so ferocious in their penguin outfit?
I think you're right. I think as they changed and looked a little more human, I think they even acted a little more human.
And your attitude toward them probably changed. I mean, they look like real people.
Yes, and I think they even acted that way. I think there was a difference in the way they acted.
Now, what about the girls? Were they ever enamored? Conversationally, you overheard, were there certain priests who absolutely drove the girls gaga?
Oh, yes, there are some just gorgeous young priests who would be assigned usually in the high schools teaching. And just as we were enamored with some of the young nuns, they were just as enamored with the young priests.
Now, did you ever think that, I mean, when you were younger, did you, in your your darkest thoughts, say they couldn't live with restrictions, denial of intimacy? Did you ever doubt that for a second, that these people were above and beyond, exhibiting or sensing or feeling what, people go through, which is, hormonal rages?
I didn't doubt it until maybe I was a sophomore or junior in high school when I started to, being in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, priests and nuns were going through a very much turmoil, and many of them leaving the church, and so I got a first-hand view of what they were going through. But I don't think until I was middle of high school, say sophomore or junior, did I realize that they were simply human too.
Did they, you hear, when I was a kid, I lived in Brooklyn, and there was a school called St. Athanasius, something like that, and I heard awful things about how the priests and nuns treated the kids. I mean, they were treated like lepers. I mean, that's the way it was when I was a kid. But were the nuns and priests overly, what's the word I'm looking for? Over-disciplinarians? I mean, were they beyond not comfort, but did they exhibit demands and rules that were hard to take?
I don't think there's any doubt about that. They certainly did. When people talk about being slapped on the knuckles with a ruler, or having your fingers slammed in your desk, or your ears boxed, or things like that, it absolutely happened. It happened to not only me, but friends of mine. And yes, it was the discipline in those days was very strict.
Now, anybody who went to Cosgriff or went to a Catholic school, and you'd like to speak to Skip about it, do call in. And, we can always talk about the Mormons. That's everyday conversation. But the Catholics and Jews and all the other auxiliary religions in Utah don't get much play. So let's spend a little time, if you are part of that education, if you are brought up, in a private school or with a Catholic education, let's hear about it. I mean, everybody in Utah has a Mormon background, even if they're not. It's because Mormons run everything. I mean, there are so many of them that they just prevail in every kind of, in every job, in every area. But those of you who in some way weren't cowed by the demands of the oppressive demands of a powerful religion like Mormonism, those of you who escaped into Catholicism, which is really more demanding and more scary than Mormon. It's scary because they have everything is codified. All the sins are codified for Catholics. Mormons don't have the litany of sinning that Catholics have. Venial sins, mortal sins. Were you, as a kid, conscious of what you did and where it fit into the category of sinning?
Oh, absolutely. You always knew that you were always looking for those venial sins and hoping that you didn't commit a mortal sin because you were marched off to the confessional at least once a week, and many times you found yourself in the confessional having to make up sins because you certainly didn't want to go in there and not have a sin to tell, because then that would be uncool or something.
That's right. It'd be an insult to the priest.
That's right.
I mean, what caused you the greatest trouble being brought up as a Catholic, and there was a hierarchical arrangement of sinning, and you knew about it? It was codified and categorized. I want you to be careful now. Your thoughts, thinking something is a sin also. What thoughts that you thought caused you the greatest difficulty in growing up? Now, if you don't want to talk about it, it's okay. There are certain areas we don't have to talk about. But what caused you confusion as a boy Catholic?
Well, I have to say that I grew up in a very wonderful Catholic family where the word sex probably was never spoken until the 90s. So sex was not something that was a great big problem for me. I think some of the strict rules that we had as Catholics, such as not eating meat on Friday, was something that even today, Friday comes and I feel like I should eat fish, or I should eat pancakes, or I should eat something other than meat, and that hasn't been a rule for many, many years. So
I wonder how that stopped. Was it by divine intervention? Did it come down from the Pope that Catholics no longer have to eat meat, no longer have to eat fish on Friday?
Well, it was in it would have been Pope John the 23rd, when they made several changes in the Catholic Church, when they changed to the English Mass and so forth and all those things. That's when they decided that they could let that rule go. That rule originally was put into place because people needed, at the time, the only real educated people back in the early days were the priests. And they saw that people were ill and needed to have more protein and needed to eat fish or something that had protein in it, and that's the reason that whole thing came about in the first place.
I remember when I was a kid, I couldn't understand how the Catholics, I couldn't understand you're not supposed to eat meat on Friday. It made no sense. Religion doesn't make any sense to me anyway. It's a man-made invention, and each man comes up with his own conclusion, or each group comes up with its own conclusion. But that made, that was one of my early awarenesses that religion was really stupid. Stupid because it invaded your privacy. It invaded your life. It gave you a conscience that made you guilt-ridden. If anybody wants to talk to Skip, 263-8255, that's Salt Lake City and County. I think no one's listening because I suggested they watch Ironweed. But those are diehards whose medication is still raging and you can't move, and those who are infirm and incapable of, moving your arms or legs, I can understand that. And you listen to K talk us, you just can't shut it off. Those of you who would like to speak to Skip about, Catholicism is so not understood or considered like a heathen in Utah. Heathens. If you would like to find out about it, I don't know why you would. After all, you have the perfect religion and you have enough people to verify and ensure that you're right. But those of you who have questions and those of you who have doubts, Skip is here. He's a lowly producer. But as a lowly producer, he's been raised to the level as a guest. If you would like to call, 263-8255, that's Salt Lake City and County. And Utah County, 4705-855. And Ogden, up north, and the surrounding area, 670-5855. Golden Delicious, sitting here talking. Just talking and talking and talking on KTKK AM 630. The noisy voicey of Utah.
In the studio with us today are millions of Americans. Millions, welcome.
Our pleasure.
We're asking millions of Americans to get their children's eyes examined once a year. All in favor of annual eye exams for children 3 and up, say aye.
Aye.
Say, I care means you care.
I care means you care.
Now say, Sally sells seashells by the seashore.
Sally sells she sells. Roots.
Gotcha.
By the seashore.
A public service message of the American Optometric Association.
K-Talk, AM 630, the voice of Utah.
Look, you non-Catholics, you won't go to hell if you speak to a Catholic. I assure you, I will take your sin If you believe it's a sin, and it's against God and your religious beliefs, I will take the sin for you. Okay, I can't imagine nobody calling in. It's just beyond me. It's just beyond me why anyone wouldn't call in and want to talk about, the competition, which is no competition, of course. You're on KTKK AM 630. Who's this, please?
This is Allison.
Allison, you want to speak to Skip about one of the minority religions in Utah?
I sure do.
Okay, Allison, have fun. Start talking.
All right.
How are you tonight, Allison?
I'm so fine. I just want you to know I'm a widow, and I was born and raised a Mormon and believed in it, and I was married for 42 years to a Catholic, and I have the utmost respect for both of them. And I don't see why everybody can't be that way.
Don't you think that is a healthy attitude to have respect for all people, not necessarily their religion, but the people that are behind them?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I had an experience when I was first married, and we had a little problems over it, but I had an experience that conference was on Easter, and I was so upset, and I went to Mass with my husband, and took my children, and I never have missed the Easter of going to Mass. It just really made a big impression on me.
Well, I think that's a wonderful thing.
And were you ostracized by your neighbor? Did you lose out?
Kind of, by both of them, actually.
Now, did you lose out? Did your family assume that you were dead because you married a Catholic?
No, absolutely not. See, I had a grandfather that was president of one of the temples for 8 years, and he was a very broad-minded, wonderful person that just gave me a lot of insight. Don't do anything in excess and just live to the dictates of your own conscience.
Well,
I felt like my husband was my children's father, and I should respect that.
Well, in excess, just marrying a Catholic is excessive.
I know.
I mean, what made you, wasn't your Mormon upbringing strong enough so that you didn't weasel out of it?
No, not at all. When you fall in love, let me tell you, it doesn't matter if it's been anybody in the world. You know what I mean?
When you fall in love, is it from the neck up or the neck down?
I think it's from the top to the bottom all the way.
I think it probably depends on how old you are.
Well, very young, like 20 years old.
I mean, how did your family handle it? How did your friends handle it? How did your bishop handle it? I mean, did you sense that you lost your bearings as a young person when you moved out?
No, I'll tell you, I found out that my religion accepted more than the Catholic did. They excommunicated him. I could still go to church and receive my sacraments, and nobody thought a thing of it.
Why do I believe you're lying?
Oh, why?
Why do I believe you're telling a fib just now? You know that it is not true that once you marry out of your religion, once born a Mormon, you don't even count. You're put on the death rolls.
Oh, no. That isn't true. I never have been not accepted by anybody. I have a daughter that's very religious and very active in the church, and she does kind of put me down once in a while. But since she lost her father, she's done all the work for him that she wanted to. But I didn't go to church every Sunday. I'm not saying I did, but I'm just saying that I didn't feel excommunicated as much as he did.
Now, this is the question, the real question. You had how many children?
3.
And did they all go their separate religious ways? Did any go on a mission?
Oh, no, none of them.
Were they brought up Catholics or Mormons?
Both.
I mean, you can't, but both at the same time?
Yes, I exposed them to both.
And they must...
I wasn't in Utah either. I was in California.
Okay, you were in a sensible, sane environment.
Right across the street from the Catholic Church, too, and about 5 blocks from the Mormon Church.
Well, Alicia, you've been brilliant. I've picked and poked at you. I haven't been very gentle, but listen, it's talk radio, and I think it should be entertainment, not a religious revival. Thank you for calling.
Right, and thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Anybody else has gone through the hell of having married out of your religious rigidity and lived through it. Let's go here in Ogden. I can't believe it. You're on KTKK AM 630. Who's this, please?
Olin, this is Chuck in Layton. How are you?
And
Catholic school. I did.
And were you a Mormon to start with?
No. I was born and raised a Catholic. But
And did you have difficulty growing up in this confined community?
well, it wasn't here.
Oh, in another state?
Yes.
Well, it's different.
Yes.
And how old are you now?
I'm 45.
And were you brought up with those nuns who wore that strict habit, and they were strict and foreboding?
I was. I had my ears boxed. I had my knuckles wrapped. But I also made straight A's in Catholic school.
And I wonder where in the Bible it's written, in the Catholic Bible, that you have to have your ears boxed and your knuckles banged. I think all Catholics went through that. There must be part of the catechism or part of the education of nuns and priests.
It's called discipline. It's called get it right. It's called learn it right the first time. We won't have to learn it again.
But I wonder if that kind of capital punishment, which is frowned upon, if it's still practiced in Catholic schools today.
I don't know. It may be subliminal, but it probably is. I think they need more of it. When I went from Catholic school to parochial school, I got failing grades. It was just amazing. I just like night and day. I changed in the 7th grade. And then when I changed grades, it's just like you're in a whole new world. Nobody cares in the public sector. We get individual teachings in the Catholic school, and I like Skip. You think about it's drained into you. The sins of this, you sin for that, you sin for this, and you better go to hell or you're going to hell, Okay,
I want you to hold on. I just want to tell this new caller to hang on. Hold on. You're on KTKK AM 630. Who's this, please?
This is May.
Will you hang on, May? I'll put you on right after this caller.
Okay.
Hang on. Okay, let's continue. Chuck?
Yes.
Chuck, now, you live in Utah now. I guess you live in Utah. Ogden is still part of Utah, isn't it?
I think so.
And is there a Catholic school? Is there a Catholic community up in Ogden?
Well, there's St. Joseph's Catholic School up in Ogden, but I don't have any dealings with it, but it's up here, and I'm sure they still wear uniforms. My nephew wears a uniform in South Carolina. He's in high school, and he still has to wear a shirt and a tie every day.
What do you think of that idea?
I think it's great. I think it brings people down to one level. Nobody can outdo the other person, like you were talking about earlier.
Now, did you marry out of your faith?
No, when I got married a long time ago, I'm since divorced, but I married a Catholic girl.
How did you get divorced without going straight to hell?
Well, it's done, and then you have to, if you want to play the game, you have to go get the annulment, which I did.
Well, you know that Teddy Kennedy, he divorced his wife, and for a long time the church would not accept it.
But see, that always puzzles me. But how do they know what you do? I mean, do they have a little beeper that's implanting you? I mean, do they know that you've sinned or divorced, or what are you going to do if you go somewhere else? Is it like a red flag going to go up, or?
Well, in your own mind, a red flag goes up. Once you're given a religious belief system, it runs you, and you can't hide from it. And those people who make that change, they want the blessing from the church so they can stay in the church, because excommunication is very powerful, a loss for a lot of people.
Well, I believe now that it's only what you want it to be. You can believe it to be that, but if you just go on, as my 93-year-old father says, as long as you're a believer, that's all that counts.
You're a good man, Chuck. Thanks for calling.
Bye.
Bye. Let's go to May. May, welcome to KTKK AM 630. Would you like to speak to Skip?
Yes.
Okay, what's on your mind, May?
I was brought up a Catholic, and I escaped.
What do you mean by escaped?
Catholic, it's all based on guilt.
All religions are based on guilt. Catholicism only has a hierarchic, in Catholics they have, the sinning is so codified that you know exactly where you fit in when you escape, when you do something.
Well, my brother was in a seminary. This is California.
Whew.
from high school through college.
Wow.
And we used to go. I mean, there are some really screwed up priests, whoever and the bishops live in mansions and drink fine wine and $200 dinners. It's crazy. I mean, if anyone believes in any kind of organized religion, it's crazy.
Well, the Mormon hierarchy, the Council of 70 and the Quorum of 70 and the Council of 12, they don't live like paupers. They are...
I don't know anything about the Mormon Church. I've avoided that altogether.
Why would you avoid that? After all, they're powerful and prevalent and they make decisions for this state.
Well, I don't like them. I think they're pushy and boring, and, I mean, they don't have their own thoughts, these people.
Skip, what do you have to say?
I simply was going to say that certainly the Catholic Church and the priests don't hold anything over any of the other religions. Take a look at some of our famous...
Catholics make fun of Mormons.
Oh, of course they do, but what I'm saying is our famous television preachers, some of them in jail, some of them living in palaces. So, I think if you take a look at all religions, you'll see that the leaders of these religions really... virtually, I would say 99% of them live lives that...
they live like royalty.
Are very much like royalty.
They are royalty. But you sound a little... May, you sound like there's an edge, there's a disappointment, there's a sarcasm, there's an anxiety, like something happened early in your life. There's an edge to your voice.
No, I was brought up Catholic, and I just think, to push this down people's throats, like my parents pushed it down my throat. I think sooner or later you just rebel against it.
Well, not all religions. Religion is pushed down your throat because the family, mother and father, are comfortable having you like they are. I mean, you don't bring up people in other cultural belief systems. You bring them up like you were brought up, so they're able to function as a family unit.
Well, it doesn't work, I don't think.
Well, in Utah it works because everyone around you
inbred.
Keeps you in check. See, in Utah...
Inbreeding in Utah.
Well, they have spies. I mean, they spy system.
Huh?
But religion is a spy system. If you don't do what you're supposed to do, they spy on you, and then the whole family suffers. May, you've been brilliant. I'm glad you took the time to call.
Okay.
But it's just conversation. No one's life is in danger.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, May, are you a regular listener?
Just once in a while.
What? That's those people who say they listen regularly. I keep thinking, get a life. Get a life. How come you're not watching Iron Wheat tonight? It's a great movie.
I have some homework I was doing, so.
Okay, how old are you?
I'm 21.
Boy, you sound like you're more mature. I mean, your voice has a power to it, like you're an older woman who's been yelling at children all your life.
No.
Okay, May, I wish you luck, and thanks for listening.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Golden Delicious, you're sitting here talking. Listen, it doesn't matter what I say about anything or anyone. The Mormon religion will survive if I don't speak kindly about it. The Republican Party will still survive, even though I think it's a little embarrassing to listen to them talk down to you, like in their paternal naysaying and pointing a finger at you. The Democratic Party will survive no matter what I say. Bill Clinton will still be president no matter what you think and say. And Enid Greenhalgh will still be your representative no matter what you say about her. So what I do is just make talk. One man's opinion, I may represent myself, but I'm sure I'm the voice of many people, and I'm the voice of not many people. Golden Delicious. Sitting here with Skip Francone, talking and talking and talking on KTKK AM 630, the noisy voicey of Utah.
We have with us here in the studio millions of Americans. Millions of Americans, welcome.
Nice to be here.
These millions are helping us demonstrate that many millions of Americans fail to get their eyes checked annually.
We do.
You do. You need to get your eyes checked every year.
We forgot.
Remember, I care means you care. And hey, millions of Americans.
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
A public service message of this station and the American Optometric Association.
English. It's about 10 minutes to 9 o'clock. Listen, this is the kind of stuff that makes conversation all worthwhile. You know, in Utah, it's them and us. It's them and us. And us never get a chance to promote our cause, our point of view. It's almost frowned upon. It's almost wrong. It's the wrong thing to say and do. But this is talk radio. Talk radio means that it's limitless. There are no parameters. The parameters are the limitations of your own limitations. Let's go to Utah County, a rare call. Hello, Utah County.
Hi. How are you?
Who am I speaking with?
This is Sally.
Sally, would you like to speak to Skip Francone?
Sure.
Okay, Sally, this is Skip.
How are you, Sally?
I'm fine, Skip. How are you doing?
I am wonderful.
Are you practicing Catholic?
I certainly am.
Oh, so am I. Catholic school and the whole bit.
And
I enjoyed every minute of it.
Now, did you suffer as a kid? Were you? I see. It's the sinning. It's the sinning system that always confuses me. That everything you do, you know, it's right or wrong. Did you go to a lot of confession because of your venial sins, or what's the other kind of sin?
Mortal sin.
Mortal sin.
Did you go to a lot of confession because of your thinking?
No.
You mean you never doubted what you thought? You never questioned?
I never doubted for 1 minute what I was taught. And I think as far as committing sins, I don't think I really considered... I just figured that if it was right in my mind, if I accepted it as right or wrong, that's how it would be.
Well, I agree with you about that, but when you go to Catholic school and you have these wonderfully sweet, some of them sweet nuns and some of them not
all sweet.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, some of them not so sweet. They certainly remind you of those sins. It brings back a time when I was in kindergarten, went to a birthday party, and if you think this kind of stuff doesn't affect you, I'm 40 years old, and this story is on my mind weekly. It was a Friday. I went to a birthday party, forgot it was Friday, and I ate a hot dog. And that eating of that hot dog has affected the rest of the 35 years beyond eating that hot dog, and I may never forget that. And that guilt, I don't think was a healthy thing.
Well, then that's in your boat. You know, I'm sure I've eaten meat on Fridays too. Instead of having my fish and everything, but I don't know. It doesn't sound right, everything that you guys are saying. It's like you're trying to run Catholics down.
It's not run. That's what Mormons think. Every time you talk about Mormons, you're bashing them.
Because when I went to school, I think I came out here at the middle of the 8th grade, and I never learned anything new the rest of up through high school that I hadn't already learned. And I just think that anybody that can get private school, Catholic school, whatever you consider it, an education, you're further ahead.
I don't think that there's any question about that, and not for one moment am I running Catholics down. By questioning your religion, your life, by questioning everything around you, it makes you a better and a bigger person in this life. And one should never take everything because it's told to you or because it's written. You should question everything, and that goes from your religion to your politicians to everything, and that makes you a better person.
I think it does. I get along fine with my Mormon friends. I have no problem with any of them. They know I'm Catholic. I know they're Mormon. It doesn't seem to interfere there, you know.
Do you ever offer...
I do my thing and they do theirs. I have gone. Sometimes they've had parties and asked me if I would come, and I would go. And I would enjoy the friendship of the women in the neighborhood. To me, it's just like going to... Their Relief Society is like Altar Society. And the majority of the time, you just sit around and talk anyhow, so... You know, it's no big deal. The ladies from the LDS Church stop in here and visit me once a month. We never talk religion. I made that, a point. I said, you're welcome to visit me any time.
Well,
we're not going to discuss religion.
Well, they probably feel sorry for you. That's why they come over. Thank you for...
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, I have to go to another caller. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
You're on KTKK AM 630. Who's this, please?
This is Helen Golden. Am I allowed to talk to you?
You can talk to Skip.
Yep.
How are you tonight, Helen?
Good. How are you?
I am fine.
Skip, I just wanted to say, if you ate you must know that if you ate a Frankfurter or anything else by mistake, you have no guilt.
No, you
certainly understand that.
Helen, I do understand that as a grown man, but at the age of 5, with the nuns and my upbringing, I didn't understand it then, and it is stuck in my subconscious and comes forward quite often.
My goodness, at 5 I wasn't even aware of that.
Well, going to Catholic school and having the nuns around you are very aware of those kinds of things.
I went to Catholic school all my life, and I just know that in order for you to be guilty of sin, you have to know if it's a mortal sin. You have to be aware that the matter you're committing is a serious matter. You have to be willing to know it's a serious matter and to say, I don't care.
Well, and Helen, you know, I certainly understand all that, and everyone understands all that, I suppose.
Do they really?
Well, but maybe in their own minds. But what we're talking about tonight is just how the guilt and the sins and the nuns and the discipline, we're just talking about how it all fit together in our lives, because this is something different that we don't usually talk about on the radio.
Everybody's a sinner. I'm sure Golden.
I want you to... No. You have to go.
Concerned as
That's
about
terrible.
it as he is night after night.
Terrible. That's terrible, Helen. You're accusing me of being a sinner. I don't mind you doing it to anybody else. But when you're perfect and you hear a mortal...
Perfect. I know it can be extremely upsetting.
Yes,
I have the same reaction.
Yes, and you have to...
But being a human being, I'm recognizing you as another one. I know we're all sinners. The thing is...
What do you mean all... Based on what are we all sinners? Based on what illogic?
Based on unkindness, based on meanness, based on intolerance.
But sinning is a religious concept. It's not...
No.
Oh,
you have a conscience, Golden. Don't you have a conscience?
I undid my conscience. I undid it because it caused me a lot of grief.
Well, I hear you crying on here night after night. You really cry, whether you recognize it or not.
But
it's a painful soul who talks on here. And I just want to say to you, it's because you have a conscience, and conscience is accountability, and it's built into everybody. There's a reason for accountability and conscience, and that's not given to you purely through religion.
But sinning is, the name sin is a religious concept. It's a religious concept that underlies the heading of sin.
Well, it has come down to us from Moses, the law given by Moses. You must know about that law.
Yeah, but the Catholics don't care about Moses. Neither do the Mormons or Protestants. Moses is a Jew, you know, and it has no significance to other religious beliefs.
But all people who are Christian or Jewish are children of Abraham.
Oh, you ask any Mormon or Catholic something like that, and you'd be laughed at of your belief system.
I know as much about the Catholic faith as anybody.
Well, I'm afraid, Helen, that you are talking rationally from a very, from...
Listen, Golden, I was brought up a devout Catholic, a very religious child. I am not an unthinking Catholic. When I was about 12 years old, I realized I was taking somebody's word for the existence of God. And any thinking human being will go through that period. Now, there is a man named Gilbert Keith Chesterton who has written a book called Orthodoxy. He was a brilliant fellow from England. He will tell you that when he was 12 years old, he was an agnostic. When he was 16 years old, he was an atheist. But as you grow and think and reflect on what it's all about, if you don't get beyond that stage, you're not too bright.
Well, I'm not too bright, but I will let you go because...
I love you.
No, don't...
Cut it out. I enjoy you tremendously, but you are a soul who cries a lot.
Because it gets the listening audience on my side. It's a trick, I know. It's like...
No, it's not a trick. I feel the pain in you.
There's no
also, I have laughed with you.
Okay.
I have laughed with you. I remember when I'm an old lady, and when I laugh hard, the blood leaves my brain. And I have laughed that you described your uncle till one night I had to turn you off because I thought I might die.
Well, We don't. Well, if you have to go, it might as well be in laughter. I have to go to the news, but we will back.
Take care.
Thank you.
I love you. Goodbye.
Don't love me.
You've got to understand better. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Whenever someone says I love you, I think, do I have to love them back? That's my greatest pain. If you love me, I don't want to love you back. Otherwise, it takes the joy out of your loving.
This is Utah's original talk radio, KTKK, Sandy, Salt Lake, Ogden, Provo. K-Talk, AM 630, the voice of Utah.
NBC Radio News. The House is gearing up for a vote that's of major importance to the majority Republicans. Lawmakers are expected to approve a $189 billion 5-year Republican tax cut bill shortly, which the GOP calls the centerpiece of its contract with America. Correspondent Bob Fuss picks up the story.
The Republicans are paying for the tax cuts with their welfare reform bill, including savings from food stamps and school lunches, requiring federal employees to pay more into their pension plan, savings in Medicare, and $100 billion in cuts in other federal programs that Republican leaders have not yet specified and haven't yet been voted on.
Earlier, the House voted down a Democratic tax cut measure. O.J. Simpson defense lawyer Barry Scheck coaxed some startling testimony from police evidence expert Dennis Fung during today's session of the trial. Fung admitted that 2 gloves central to the case were moved and possibly contaminated before scientists could test them. I'm Charles Van Dyke.
Hi, Tom Bodette from Motel 6. Well, we've all been watching as these newly elected Mr. Smiths up on Capitol Hill get settled into their new jobs. Well, in between dealing with big issues like who's going to get the corner office or how much what's-his-name should get for his memoirs, I've heard a fair bit of talk about this contract with America. Well, you know, at Motel 6, we've had one for years. It reads something like this. At Motel 6, we solemnly promise to give you everything you need for a good night's sleep at the lowest prices of any national chain. And the price on the sign out front is the single-person rate for every last room in the place, which is a heck of a deal on a clean, comfortable room. Oh, and just for the record, we left that whole term limits thing out of our contract because, as far as we're concerned, you can stay as long as you want. Well, I'm Tom Bodette from Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Customs agents have raided spy equipment stores in a handful of cities, seizing miniature eavesdropping devices, which they say are illegal under federal law. George Weiss of the Customs Service says the shops are putting smuggled spy tools into the hands of criminals.
Not to be outdone, lawbreakers are going high-tech in an attempt to stay one step ahead of law enforcement.
The FCC is asking for public comment on a series of proposals to increase the amount of children's educational programming on TV stations. Correspondent Becky Bailey explains.
The Commission is fed up with broadcasters claiming such shows as The Flintstones are educational. Chairman Reed Hunt would like to see that term clearly defined and quality children's shows designated in the various television guides. Hunt's also proposed a minimum number of hours be imposed on the industry to carry such programming.
But the plan is opposed by the TV industry and at least 2 of the 5 FCC commissioners. A new health survey says college freshmen quickly start drinking when they enter school, and drunken parties become a way of life. The survey says at least half of the new students get smashed during their first week on campus. Henry Weschler spearheaded the study for the Harvard School of Public Health.
The quality of life at the high binge schools includes what we call the secondhand binge effect. That is, students who are not binge drinkers get negatively affected by the heavy drinking of others.
Baseball spring training got underway today, and at the New York Yankees camp, about half the club's 40-man roster was in uniform for what was billed as a voluntary supervised workout, the first mandatory practice scheduled for this Friday. General George Custer may have been the loser at the Battle of the Little Bighorn, but his stuff was a winner at an auction in San Francisco today. A collection of Custer memorabilia went for almost $2 million. With NBC Radio News, I'm Charles Van Dyke.
If you want to be in the right place at the right time, then come into JCPenney right now. We're celebrating our 93rd anniversary with the lowest sale prices of the year on hundreds of items for men, women, the kids, and the home. So don't waste another minute. Visit our 93rd anniversary sale, going on now through April 8th, because the best time to save is right now, and the best place to save is...
You pick up up a payphone, you dial a number, and you anxiously wait to hear the sound of a familiar voice. And instead, you get... Ugh, that is major annoying, because you know it's just another no-name phone company messing with your call. Want to make sure your card call always goes through? Know the code. Dial 1-800-CALL-ATT.
For card calls, you'll always get through if you know the code. Dial 1-800-CALL-ATT.
Your true voice.
Good evening, this is Skip Francone with the KTKK News you may not have heard today. Salt Lake City, a couple whose garbage collection business in Ephraim lost its residential customers when the city started its own trash service, has appealed to the Utah Supreme Court for compensation. John and Faye Bagford say their situation is the same as when the government takes land to build a street or a building and compensates the owner. But an attorney for the Ephraim City says the rule doesn't apply because the Bedfords can still operate their business. Bagfords argue that Ephraim residents don't want their services anymore because they're being charged automatically by the city, and nobody would want to pay twice. The justices took the issue under advisement. Also in Salt Lake City, at a week-long seminar on disaster preparedness, officials said Salt Lake County is about 10 years behind California's earthquake-prone communities in preparing for a large earthquake. A California official urged local leaders to start preparing for the worst as soon as possible. It was a rare sight, pipe smoke at the state capitol. The Utah Clean Air Act bans smoking inside public places, but a law passed this year allows Indians to smoke pipes as part of traditional ceremonies, even if it is inside. Representative Eli Anderson of Tremonton sponsored the bill, and American Indians from Utah and surrounding states gathered in a ceremony to celebrate its passage yesterday at the Capitol. Goober at the opera? You betcha. Not only any opera, but George Lindsay will appear in the Nashville Opera's production of De Fledermaus on the 22nd and 24th of this month. He says that during the ballroom scene in the second act, he'll come out as the Phantom of the Opera and do Goober. Lindsay says in the past year, he'll come to terms with the fact that he'll always be known as his character on the Andy Griffith Show. In fact, he accepted it so well that he's titled his autobiography, Goober in a Nutshell. And that's the K-Talk News tonight. The weather, it's fair and mild. Highs tomorrow, 65 to 70. Mostly cloudy. Chance of showers, 20%. Looks like we're going to have a little bit of return of the wet spring. And this has been Skip Francone with the KTKK News. And now, with the answer to the immortal question, to be a sinner or not to be a sinner, Golden Delicious.
That's right. We can't have Helen call anymore because she's too smart. She's just too smart. She saw right through me. I've been exposed. Here I thought I was hiding behind the mask of brilliance, the armor of cold-bloodedness. But Helen saw right through me. We can't have callers like that. I can psychiatrize you. I can analyze you, but you can't do that to me. That's the rule, Helen. I can talk about myself, I can reveal myself, but I don't want myself explained. That's simple. That's simple. Helen, you have to be careful, because your talk show host is vulnerable. He's vulnerable and will not let himself be considered a human being among his fellow listeners. You overstepped the bounds, Helen. I just don't know, Helen. A wise woman like you, an educated woman, someone who understands. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Let me tell you about the Salt Lake City Credit Union. I mean, I love to talk about the Salt Lake City Credit Union because it's my bank without the ominousness of being a feeling like it's a bank. It's an institution where money moves back and forth, just like that dirty word bank. But it's different. It's a different feeling. Those of you who've always felt intimidated when you go into your bank, Those of you who always felt that you're an intruder when you talk to a teller and ask her something. Those of you who have felt that these people just want your money. Try a credit union. Try the Salt Lake City Credit Union, where banking is spankingly pleasurable. Banking is spankingly pleasurable. That's awful. But you're in Utah, where corny things sell. Corniness is endemic in the thinking of people in Utah. So if I say the Salt Lake City Credit Union, where banking is spankingly pleasurable, it fits in with something you can accept. The credit union. What does a credit union offer that a real bank doesn't offer? They offer the same. It's the way you're treated. And it's a private club. Once you join the credit union, it costs $1 to join. You belong to a club that's your very own. You put money into a bank and you get no special privileges. In fact, you can go to the Salt Lake City Credit Union and have them make out a check for you on their check, and it doesn't cost anything. You go to another bank and it's $1.50 for them to make a check out for you. Sometimes I go there and I say, I want a $400 check to send to my landlord. It doesn't cost anything. You don't believe that, do you? You say everything costs in the bank, but not my Salt Lake City Credit Union on 1380 South Main Street. What else do they have to offer?